It's Victory Monday once again, Colts fans, as the Indianapolis Colts took down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and moved into sole possession of seventh place in the AFC standings. Is it time to seriously start talking about the playoffs? Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? Let's talk about it. Welcome to another episode of the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast presented by Fan Nation on SI.com, part of the Fans First Sports Network. My name is Andrew Moore, and I'm joined here as always by my fellow writer, co-host, and analyst at Horseshoe Huddle, Drake Wally. Drake, hope you had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I definitely did. Had a lot to be thankful for this year. Made a pretty big announcement on Thanksgiving as well. Joining the club as a father here in the spring. So that was pretty. Thank you. It was a lot of
Also,
fun.
amazing post.
Hey, post. I had to do some math there, add it up to try to figure out when the little one would be draft eligible. We don't know if it's a boy or a girl yet. So if it is a boy, hey, you can start him early. But how are you doing, man? How was your Thanksgiving? And it's great to join you here on a Victory Monday.
Yeah, it was really good, nice and relaxing. Got to watch some college football. It was an amazing game between OSU and Michigan, per usual. But man, I gotta say, I'm really excited that the Colts were able to play the way they did. I know that we were just talking about this before the show. I totally get that Tampa isn't gonna, wow you when you see them in the win column because they're 4-7 now, and Baker, isn't really playing at the highest of levels. He's playing better. But man, it's a good win. It's a win that was needed. It had to happen, so they still got it done. And you know what? It gives you more confidence in the last 6 games that you can maybe sneak into that 7th seed and keep that 7th seed for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Definitely get into this last stretch of the season, 6 games left. I think the Colts will be in every single one of those, but it all started with Tampa Bay on Sunday taking care of business. Let's look at the chat here. My beautiful wife, Danielle, the woman that's going to make me a father come May with the nightly super sticker, $3 this time, going to splurging a little bit. So thank you so much for that. Truitt is in here with his super sticker as well, and he says congrats to Mr. and Mrs. Moore. Greatly appreciate it, Truitt. He's back from his mini vacation and very encouraged about the team. Truitt, thank you so much, buddy, for all of your support. Great to have you back live in the chat. Wyatt Law here as well. What a Colts debut by linebacker Ronnie Harrison. Looked right at home at the will position, safety background, and advantage. We'll definitely talk about Ronnie Harrison and his big play on Sunday as the replacement for Shaquille Leonard. Stats Matt is in the building as well. What's up? We in the playoffs as of this moment. It's a good time to be a Colts fan. A lot of momentum going on with this team. A lot of excitement building with this team. And Spooks Hill Joe, congrats to you both. Wish you all the best. Thank you so much, Joe. Really do appreciate it. And we thank you so much for all of your support. So before we dive in, please go follow us on all of our socials, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts on FN on X, and subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel. Hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I go live with brand new content here for the Horseshoe Huddle podcast, so you never miss an episode. And if you can't catch us live, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there as well. So make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star review so we can reach other Colts fans just like you. So hope everyone had a fantastic Thanksgiving like Drake and I did, but let's talk about what really matters here in the football world, and that's the Indianapolis Colts. And the Indianapolis Colts pulled off their 3rd win in a row on Sunday, beating down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 27-20 at Lucas Oil Stadium. Really fun game. I think it was the first time in a while, Drake, where both offense, defense, special teams, they all really played and complemented each other. And I think Shane Steichen spoke to that after the game, where yes, there were some specific players that stood out, but it wasn't just the defense that carried the team as like they did the past 2 wins, or it wasn't the offense having to score 35, 40 points to get the win and try to pull it off. It was really good complementary football to a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. While they're 4-7 as their record, they definitely have some playmakers on both sides of the ball, and the Colts took care of business at home.
Yeah, and you know what? Give Shane Steichen credit. Regardless of if a team is dinged up with injuries or they're mostly healthy or completely healthy, they're still all pros, and you're still going in there and you're defeating professional athletes. And he took advantage of a weak secondary, but an even weaker secondary minus Jamel Dean. Now, don't get me wrong, Minshew still found a way to throw an interception, but I mean, hey, at the end of the day, the ground game looked great against a team that destroys ground games. The Minshew, outside of that interception, there were moments where he was shaky, mostly carried the team. Okay. In a game manager role like he should. The defense, especially that defensive front, 6 freaking sacks on the day. I mean, just an overall great performance. And even Matt Gay had a great performance too. I know that he missed one, but it was almost a 60-yard field goal. So give him a little bit of slack on that. But yeah, like you said, team victory. That's honestly about the best thing you can ask for. You want a team victory. You don't want one side to have to carry everything. So everybody complimented each other well. And, even though Minshew did throw an interception, he still found a way to get in the end zone on the ground. So give him
You
credit.
want your team playing good complementary football into December and January. And we'll start with, I mean, we talked about it. This was my X factor of the game as well. The Colts were going to have to run the football against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Coming into the game, the Bucks were ranked 5th or 6th in the league against the run. Did not stop the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts ended up running for 155 yards on the ground against this Buccaneers front, and that was without Ryan Kelly even. So shout out to Wesley French for stepping in there at center and playing really, really good football right in the middle of the offensive line there. But 5.7 yards per carry average, led by Jonathan Taylor. Tell me what you thought of JT's performance, Drake, because in my opinion, that looked like the old JT to me, dominating the running game, finding holes when there really wasn't anything there, and being the bell cow for this offense.
Yeah, and look, he didn't have like 25 or 26, 27 carries, but I think that it's because the game plan was nice and even. You didn't have to just give the ball to the running backs all day. But 15 carries, 91 rushing yards. For anyone that's curious, that's about 6.1 yards per carry, along of 17 yards, which shows you the consistency of his runs, and 2 scores on the ground. Man, it was just nice to see him not only get in once, but he got in twice. And so Jonathan Taylor, I think, is firmly back in the swing of things as the bell cow running back and the leader of the Colts offense right now.
He just looked like the things were slowing down for him again. Wasn't pressing. I mean, there were a couple times where the Buccaneers had the Colts dead to rights just because of how dominant their defensive front has been. Jonathan Taylor just continued to move the pile. Like you said, 91 yards on 15 carries, the 2 touchdowns. And with that came a random drug test by the NFL today. So shout out to them for that. But yeah, I mean, Jonathan Taylor controlled the line of scrimmage, broke multiple big runs to sustain drives. And I mean, Zach Moss did his thing too. Zach Moss had 8 carries for 55 yards. I really thought that the Colts did a good job of splitting up the running back reps between Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss. They didn't necessarily rely on Jonathan Taylor the whole game or Zach Moss the whole game. It was pretty much split up. I think like 65 to 35. With Jonathan Taylor getting the bulk of the snaps and the carries, Zach Moss coming in to be not necessarily a change of pace back, but just to give some relief for Jonathan Taylor and making sure both of those guys stayed fresh late into the game. I thought it was really good job by DeAndre Smith in divvying up those carries, playing the hot hand, but at the same time not completely making the carries one side. And I think it led to a really refreshed and a running game that was able to carry throughout the second half. Shout out to Tom Brady, our biggest fan, Tom Brady, saying very tough loss, but at least they played better than the Patriots did. Hashtag go Butts. Brady with his $5 super chat. Hey, thank you so much for all your support to probably the second greatest quarterback of all time behind number 18. But hey, at least I'm sorry that both your teams got a loss this weekend. But yeah, at least they're better than the Patriots. So not much to be happy about there. But I mean, hey, Tom Brady must be pretty sad, Drake, because Brady, the last 2 games the Colts have played, beating up on Brady's former teams. What's up with that, Tom?
Yeah, and the thing is that at the end of the day, though, the Patriots, I do have to say this. I figured that they might have a little bit of a rough season, But honestly, I didn't think that the entire bottom would fall out from it like that. So
Yeah.
that could be one of the worst teams, maybe even like a worthy of a number one pick if this keeps going.
I mean, hey, wouldn't that be something? Caleb Williams and the
Oh
New
my,
England Patriots jersey,
oof,
or Drake May. I'm putting both those guys at 1A
scary.
and 1B. But hey, thank you so much for your support to Mr. Brady here. Always appreciated when you come and join the show. But Drake, there was another guy that really helped lead this offense as well. Michael Pittman Jr. I mean, I know there was some people out there that still are saying he's not a wide receiver one. Another 10 catches, 107 yards, making big catches to secure multiple first downs. I mean, going up against this 31st ranked pass defense in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially with Jamel Dean out, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not have a solution for Michael Pittman Jr. and really it took them doubling and triple teaming Pittman at times for them to really slow down number 11. I thought Pittman was excellent yesterday.
Yeah, and I mean, he got targeted 13 freaking times and still caught 10 passes for 107 yards, which the 10 passes is a season high,
Mhm.
and the 107 yards is only 2 yards shy of his season best. And I'm going to toot my own horn here. I had 5 keys for the game, and I said key number 3 is get Michael Pittman Jr. the ball, and at the bottom it says look for Pittman to potentially put up his best game of the year against the Bucs because number one, they stink on in the secondary, and they were missing Jamel Dean. Look, they definitely game planned for Michael Pittman. They just couldn't do anything about it. Okay.
Mhm.
You don't go against the Colts. You don't go into a game against the Colts and not game plan for Michael Pittman. So for him to catch 10 passes off of 13 targets, that's just ridiculous. And I think it's time to give Michael Pittman his due as a number one receiver league wide.
He played very well yesterday, and then just starting off the show talking about these two guys. There's a reason we're doing that, and Drake, I want to kind of hear your thoughts. But this goes in line with what I wrote after the game last night. The Colts are in the midst of a playoff push right now, and they had to get this offense back on track. Who did they turn to? Their top two playmakers in Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman Jr. to get this offense back on track. I'm not exactly sure how many offensive snaps the Colts had yesterday, but 13 targets to Michael Pittman Jr., 15 carries for Jonathan Taylor yesterday. I mean, that's at least half of the offensive snaps probably going. Total plays they had 70. So with 13 targets and 15, that gets it about what, 28. So
It's almost
well,
50%.
almost 50%
Jeez.
of the entire offensive game plan and the offensive snaps went to those two guys. The Colts, if they are going to make the playoffs, they've got to rely heavily on Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman. They have to make sure those two guys are featured in their game plans. You got to rely on your best playmakers in order to win. And that's what they did on Sunday. And look at the result. Got the Colts offense back on track, 394 yards of total offense after an abysmal performance against the Panthers, where without Kenny Moore, they probably it's probably a very close game, and then
Yeah.
against the Patriots, the offense was nowhere to be found pretty much. So getting back to around 400 yards of total offense, getting Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman heavily involved in the game plan, and good things happen.
Yeah, and it really helps to have your two biggest playmakers on offense in completely different positions. And I'm not even talking about a tight end and a wideout. I'm talking about you got one guy who's a wideout and one guy who's a running back. And they both are Pro Bowl level players, and Jonathan Taylor's an all pro level player. So to have them both humming and have them both operating efficiently, boy, that's going to put pressure on any defense, regardless of who's under center.
Austin, I like this guy. This comment saying extend Pitt now for 4 years, $85 million.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think that's probably what it's going to take. I think it's going to be around 20 to $22 million to re-sign Michael Pittman Jr. I mean, he's on pace for 117 catches, well over 1,200 yards this season. Those are very, very good numbers for a wide receiver. And I know there's some there, there's gonna he's not gonna maybe be the best in those categories. But those wide receiver one numbers, and that's $20 million a year numbers for Michael Pittman Jr. So if I had to make a guess right now, I don't even know if the Colts want to entertain letting Michael Pittman Jr. hit the open market. I could very easily see a long-term deal get done this spring before Pittman has an opportunity to test the market. And honestly, I would not be sad about that or have a problem with that at all. I think Michael Pittman Jr. needs to be an Indy long term.
Yeah, and I just real quick, I looked at his game log, and so through 11 games, right, he has one catch against the Rams because they completely just shut him out, and two catches against Cleveland, which it's Cleveland. But outside of that, his next lowest reception amount is against the Titans with 5, and then after that, it's literally week 1, 8, 2, 8, 9, 9, 8, 8, 8, 10. So outside of 3 games, this dude has caught at least 8 passes in every freaking game. That's just consistency right there. That's incredible.
He's definitely the go-to guy in this offense. Stats Matt says we got to talk about the 4th down play calls to Mo and Pitt. We're definitely going to talk about that just a little bit later in the show. So make sure you stay tuned when we talk about that. But let's talk about another guy on offense, Gardner Minshew. Overall, when you look at the stat line, not terrible, not great. Looking at his passing numbers, 24-41 for 251 yards and the interception. He also had the rushing touchdown to add to it. And I thought it was a tale of two. It was really all over the place for Gardner Minshew. At times, he looked really calm, settled in that pocket, being the distributor that I think the Colts really want him to be. Other times, we saw him start to freak out again when there was a little pressure coming his way, or he almost felt like there was pressure there when there wasn't. Don't even ask me about why the dude tried to run backwards when he was getting close to the line of scrimmage and ran basically straight into a defender. But I think at least for if Colts fans want to look at this positively, Gardner Minshew didn't do enough to hurt the Colts into a loss. But I would say Gardner Minshew didn't exactly win the game for the Colts either.
No, and look, 24 for 41, 251 yards passing, an interception. He did score a touchdown on the ground, but he did only take 2 sacks. Now, that play, I remember saying to myself, what in the hell are you doing? But then when you go back and look at it, look, man, I think Minshew saw, I can't remember who number 8 is for Tampa, but I think that he was thinking to himself, I don't want to get tackled. I don't want 8 seconds to run off the clock. So I'm going to stop what I'm doing and go back and throw an incomplete pass. And it actually ended up, if I'm not mistaken, that at the end of the first half. And didn't that, if he just gets out of bounds, just a couple yards more than where they were, Matt Gay probably makes that field goal. Isn't that what that was? Didn't he have to kick a stupid long field goal because Minshew didn't run to the sideline?
It was a 58-yard field goal, and I think there was multiple. That last drive before the half definitely wasn't the best drive of the day for the Colts. It was issues with Minshew. I don't think Steichen used the timeouts very well, and it certainly didn't end in a scoring drive. Luckily, it didn't hurt the Colts any in this particular game, but I think it's definitely something they need to learn from moving forward, and Steichen needs to kind of manage it a little bit better, but he also needs to. But Gardner Minshew needs to be smarter in that situation as well.
Yeah, and look, Minshew has shown through the games that he's started and the games that he's filled in for when Richardson did go out. He's shown you what he is. He's a game manager. He's a safe thrower. At times, though, you already know the guy struggles with pressure. Sometimes he sees ghosts. There was that interception he threw was I think a combo of things. I think that he felt pressure that wasn't there. I think that he just wasn't communicating on the route. I think that he thought something else. I think it was Josh Downs he was targeting. He thought Downs was running one thing and Downs thought he was throwing just something else. So just bad communication. But man, Minshew in these games, when it comes down to teams like Pittsburgh and when it comes down to teams like Houston when they face them, and maybe even Atlanta, who has shown at times they can play some defense. I mean, you got to play more efficiently. I know it sounds really nitpicky, but when you have no touchdown passes as a quarterback who's not a runner, and you only have one interception to accompany that, man, 8 touchdown passes to 7 interceptions is kind of an ugly stat line. So I think if the Colts want to win out and get to the playoffs, man, Minshew's just got to try his damnedest to not turn it over at all, because he's just struggled with it this year.
I want to give a shout out to our main man, Logan Schmidt, for his $5 super chat this evening. Logan, thank you so much. Definitely a goat among us. That's for damn sure. Logan says, playoff bound, you handsome fellas. I don't want you to patronize us like that ever again. You're the handsome one among us. But Logan, thank you so much for all of your support, buddy. It really does mean the world to Drake and I. But Drake, yeah, I think getting back on just to talk about that interception a little bit. I haven't had a chance to go through the film again yet, but from seeing it there live, it did look like it was a miscommunication between Minshew and Downs. It looks like that. I think it seemed like it was more of an option route where you're trusting the wide receiver and the quarterback to be on the same page. Downs kind of saw an opening there in the zone and kind of sat in it. Minshew thought he was going to go out to the right and kind of just released the ball thinking that. He didn't, and the cornerback was there to make the interception, and it was like almost like wrong place, wrong time, miscommunication. I think it was Carlton Davis, the third, that ended up making that interception. But yeah, I thought Downs ran the right route, sitting in that little zone. So I'm not sure why Minshew thought that was the correct read there, but it did seem like that miscommunication is what did it. But really, just again summing up what you need out of Minshew, wasn't a terrible performance, but you still, especially for this playoff push where every game matters and you can't have a game where Minshew kind of self-destructs, he still needs to be better. I think, to ensure that the Colts can make a run into the playoffs, because with so many teams so close there in the AFC, the margin for error for the Colts is zero. They really have to. They really don't have an opportunity to go 500 during this stretch. They pretty much have to win most of their games remaining in order to secure that playoff berth.
Yeah, and the good news is they've got a team that they've shown they can win these games with Gardner Minshew. Okay, so you just hope that his pocket presence gets a little bit better. And like you said, it's really a good thing that ground game was humming. I think that's when Minshew really operates the best. He's just got to try to limit those turnovers and honestly just stop getting happy feet and happy thoughts in the pocket, because he, like you said, he kind of feels pressure when it's not there. And I think mixed with the miscommunication that led to the interception. Luckily, like you said earlier, it didn't hurt the team and force a loss.
Now let's move to the defensive side of the ball for this, and kind of right on cue, we have someone asking for an update on a defender here, and it's Logan Schmidt once again. Thank you so much for your $2 super chat, Logan. Logan says, need any kind of Juju update. So if I'm being honest, Logan, there really isn't much to update on there. The only thing we've really gotten from Shane Steichen is that he's progressing. And when asked whenever he's going to practice, we just get, we'll see. Juju Brents hasn't practiced in a while because he's missed now. I think it was his third or fourth straight game missing and being out 4 or 5 weeks now. I think it's going to take a little bit of time. I don't know if necessarily he'll be ready after 1 week of practice. It might take a couple weeks of practice just to make sure that Brents has his legs back underneath him. But as far as we know, he's all we heard so far is that he is progressing, and luckily for the Colts, Darrell Baker Jr. has filled in pretty well in Brent's stead. But I know the Colts still want to get that second round draft pick back, because he was playing really well before that quad injury.
Yeah, and for no other reason than that, I mean, the dude fits perfectly in Gus Bradley's scheme, and he's Gus Bradley's like dream at cornerback. He's that long rangey guy, and like you said, he's made some really dynamic plays as a rookie. So, gosh, you just hope he gets back out there, if at least for even if for just a couple games. I just hope he gets back out there, and it's not turning into we don't know the definitive yet, but a Jelani Woods type of situation.
Exactly. Thanks you again for your support. And Logan Schmidt says, not an acceptable answer. Hey, buddy, I'm trying. If I had any
You
more
need to date.
information on Juju Brents, I would love to share it with all of you. I really would, because I loved watching number 29 out there play just as much as anybody. I think he's a very talented kid, and excited to see what he can do in a Colts uniform. But Logan, thank you so much for your support, buddy. Really do appreciate it. But the defender I really want to talk about, Samson Ebukam. What a day by Samson Ebukam out there going up against a Pro Bowl, all pro left tackle in Tristan Wirfs, and he dominated. 4 tackles, 2 sacks, and the forced fumble on Baker Mayfield that pretty much sealed the victory for the Indianapolis Colts on Sunday. Samson Ebukam now second on the team with 6 sacks this season, and he's sure making that signing by Chris Ballard look better and better by the week.
Yeah, and I think that I can't remember who put it out on X, but they said that it might be the best free agent signing of the year, like without question. And we weren't talking about Ebukam for a couple games, and then here the guy comes against a good offensive line, okay, a line that has not allowed very many sacks, and he just tears them apart. I mean, he has 2 sacks in the game. He's only, like you said, he's only behind Dio Dangbo, who also again had himself a half sack, and he's actually leading the team with 6.5, and right behind him is Samson Ebukam. Hell, I think Tyquan Lewis had a sack. I think Eric Johnson had a sack. Kwity Paye had a sack. There was just sacks everywhere. Man, sacks were falling from the sky in that game. So I think that Samson Ebukam really made a hell of a statement, and it's his best performance of the season without question.
I'm telling you guys, when this signing was made, it gave me those Danico Autry vibes, really under the radar signing by the Colts from a guy that again had shown some promise, just didn't get the reps and just didn't get the opportunities at his former stop. Now that Samson Ebukam is in place and playing those starters reps in that Leo position, he's bringing this to fruition. 6 sacks. He's got the potential to. He's with 6 games left. I mean, he very well could end up with double-digit sacks this season. And he's really been an upgrade, in my opinion, over Yannick Ngakoue was a year ago. Going up against Tristan Wirfs, again, one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL, and smoked him numerous occasions.
True.
Pushing Tristan Wirfs, who's a big man, straight back into Baker Mayfield, showing that burst, that power that he has, and then to put the team on his back, get by Tristan Wirfs in the clutch, come around, strip Baker Mayfield, and give the ball back to the offense to finish out the game. It was phenomenal work by Samson Ebukam, and he's starting to come on. I think he did have a lull period in the middle part of the season, but it is good to kind of see him rebound and have such a really impressive performance against top talent right across the line from him. So very encouraging to see from Samson Ebukam. And you're hoping that this can become more of the norm for Ebukam rather than a once in a blue moon performance.
Yeah, and look, the guy had by far the best pass rush grade. He had 29 pass rushing snaps. He had an 81.7 pass rushing grade. He had 4 pressures on the quarterback, which, if I'm not mistaken, what was it that you said when he got signed, Andrew? You said, yeah, his stats up to this point haven't shown that, they haven't shown how much he can do, but all he does is put constant pressure on the quarterback. And that is all he did in that game. And he was constantly in Baker Mayfield's face. So, man, that was a great game for him, not just statistical, but just because you got a real view of what Samson Ebukam's role can be at its height and exactly why the Colts signed him. So good for him. He's earning that contract just like Matt Gay's earning his.
And you mentioned it, Drake. It wasn't just Ebukam that was putting pressure on Baker Mayfield. Like you said, Kwity Paye had a sack. It was good to see Isaiah Land get a sack in his limited opportunities. Tyquan Lewis with another sack. Dio Odangbo and Adetomo Adebare with a half sack each to total 6 sacks for the day. Baker Mayfield could never really get comfortable back there, and it led to some errant throws. It put the Buccaneers behind the sticks. The Buccaneers started to have success running the football as well, which is they averaged, 6.6 yards per carry on the ground. Rashad White had 100 yards in that game, but because the Colts were able to pressure Baker Mayfield, get them behind the sticks, they really couldn't use that running game to their advantage. And as the Colts were kind of running up the score, they really had to abandon that running game. So one of our keys on our show last week was talking about pressuring Baker Mayfield, and that's what the Colts front did.
Yeah, he was constantly uncomfortable. And, Baker is a gamer. He's going to take that punch in the pocket. He'll play through a shoulder injury. The he's just a lunch pail type of guy, gets to work. But he's just like any other quarterback, too. And there's different tiers of success, but no quarterback throws well under pressure. Not well. Some throw better, but Baker Mayfield is just like any other quarterback, and he's very average, probably subpar. And in fact, that I don't know if he misread that interception to Ronnie Harrison, but man, he just, like you said, he just constantly was on the ground. He even got hurt at one point. Kyle Trask had to come in. Look, man, they put a beating on Baker Mayfield, and the Colts need to give themselves a pat on the back because, again, that's a good offensive line, and it's got one of the best tackles in the entire game, and Tristan Wirfs. And like I said, Samson Ebukam just cut him apart.
And you mentioned Ronnie Harrison Jr. That's a perfect segue into the next guy we're going to talk about on the defensive side of the ball, the replacement for Shaquille Leonard, who was in attendance on Sunday at Lucas Oil Stadium watching the game from a suite. The Colts played a tribute video to Shaquille Leonard and then showed him on the Jumbotron, got a standing ovation from the Colts fans in attendance there. He showed his love right back. It was a very touching moment for a lot of Colts fans. And again, credit to Shaquille Leonard for showing up, because honestly, if he would have said, I don't want anything to do with this organization anymore, I don't think anyone could have blamed him, but no, Shaquille Leonard comes back all class, continues to cheer on his brothers in that locker room there, and cheer on his replacement in Ronnie Harrison Jr., who I don't know if it was the very next play or a couple plays after that tribute video was played, Ronnie Harrison Jr. goes out there and gets the interception. Called up from the practice squad this week. He was was a safety his entire career. The Colts said, "Hey, we'll bring you on, but you got to convert to linebacker for us." He does it unselfishly. Waits his turn, grinding on the practice squad all year, finally gets his opportunity, comes in and immediately makes a huge play for the Indianapolis Colts defense. And that's really when it all started. I think it was tied at 3 when that happened, when Ronnie Harrison secured that interception. And immediately after that interception, the Colts go down the field, score a touchdown, and they don't relinquish the lead for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and what an interesting switch, because now you've got a guy who, he's 6'2", he's about 210 pounds, so he's very light. But the thing is, he's got coverage ability, because all he's done, and he started a lot of games at safety. So the fact that he was able to go right in there, get into coverage at linebacker, get the interception, man, he didn't have any tackles. He barely played. But the thing is, he had the play for the defense. So if he can continue to ascend, and if he can maybe put a little bit of weight on, because otherwise he might get absolutely wrecked by a pole block or just like a downfield block from a lineman. I think he could potentially be a serviceable guy, and he could actually be one of the better coverage linebackers for the Colts, just because all his career he was doing was covering receivers down the field and being literally the safety blanket for the defense.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Ronnie Harrison Jr. isn't being asked to play every down for the Indianapolis Colts. They have Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed for that reason. Those are their every down linebackers, and I think it'll just switch depending on the situation. If you need a bigger linebacker in there for run defense in that Sam spot, that's going to be Grant Stewart. Grant Stewart is the starter in that situation. If you need to go to more of a three linebacker set, or even have a dime linebacker in there where you technically only have one linebacker and you're bringing more of a safety linebacker hybrid hybrid, exactly what Ronnie Harrison is, I think that's going to be the package for him. So he's probably not going to be out there a lot, but it seems like for what the role that the Colts want him to play, I think he fits it really well. And he certainly showed that on Sunday, making those big play that really turned the momentum in the Colts' favor. And like I said, they never relinquished the lead the rest of the game, leading to that 27-20 victory. And with that victory, Drake, the Colts, if the playoffs started today, Colts would be that seventh seed, their seventh seed in the AFC. And honestly, sitting at 6-5, I know a lot of fans didn't think that this was possible when the season began. And I mean, it's a credit to Shane Steichen. It's a credit to all the players, the rest of the coaching staff for putting on this run. But I know they're not satisfied with just being in the seventh seed with 6 games remaining. They could really care less about that. They have 6 games remaining. All 6 of those games, in my opinion, I think the Colts will have a shot. I don't think there's one game remaining on the schedule where I think there's no way the Colts can win that game. And if they take care of business, Drake, the playoffs for the Colts in 2023 is a very realistic possibility.
Yeah, and we just I'm going to pat us both on the back right here because we said don't pack it in, Colts fans. Like, don't pack it in. Like, I know that we know that Richardson's injured. We understand there's been a lot of injuries actually for this team, but all they do is just keep on winning. And I understand their schedule is softer, but they're all professionals and they've still won. This is now 3 in a row. They were 3-5. Now they're 6-5. It's all about when you catch fire, and the Colts are catching fire at the perfect time because it's a weak schedule. They need to catch fire. They have to win these games. And when you look at that schedule, man, I think it was Josh Smith. I think I saw mentioned something earlier in the chat where he said, "How do you see the rest of the schedule going, or how do you see the Steelers game going?" Or his biggest worry was the Texans. I agree. I think the Houston Texans is literally the toughest game. I do think that the one thing that worries me about Pittsburgh is just history, because Mike Tomlin understands how to beat Indianapolis. Okay. It's a lot different now, though. It's not Jeff Saturday this time. All right. It's not Frank Reich this time. All right. It's Shane Steichen. And that is a weak secondary without Minkah Fitzpatrick right now. So that's a team I think they can beat. The Bengals don't have Joe Burrow now. Very beatable football team. It's going to come down to the Houston Texans. And if I'm going to make a bold prediction, I think that the Colts will have to beat them to get into the playoffs.
What if that happens? What if the Colts week 18 game against the Texans gets flexed into prime time because it's a battle for the 7th seed or higher?
Winner gets in
the AFC playoffs. But yeah, every game is winnable, but also they could also lose every single game because I think all the games remaining are tough contests for the Colts. Tennessee Titans this upcoming week. Tennessee's always tough, divisional opponent. I don't care how good the Colts are, how bad the Titans are, or vice versa. The games are always very, very tight. Weekend after that, you go to Cincinnati. And yes, Joe Burrow is not playing, but they still have Jamar Chase. We'll see if T. Higgins is back. Joe Mixon still have a very potent offense, and that defense headed by Lou Amarillo, very, very tough unit. So the Bengals are going to be in it. Then Pittsburgh, the Colts historically don't have a very good record against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the Steelers are always in it. You go down then to Atlanta just beat the New Orleans Saints, which beat the Indianapolis Colts earlier in this season.
Badly.
So you can't discount the Atlanta Falcons, the Las Vegas Raiders. I know the Raiders are going through a lot, but the last time they fired a coach in the middle of the season and came to Lucas Oil Stadium, the Raiders won that game, so you can't count them out. And then Houston is going to be a dogfight in week 18 as well. So it's going to be a crazy schedule, but I think, and this is why I kind of wanted to save this for last. I think the Colts have an advantage because they have a coach that I think, and Drake wrote about it today, should seriously get consideration for Coach of the Year. Not only for the job that he's done with the Indianapolis Colts, as taking them from a bottom team to now potential playoff team in 1 year without the starting quarterback for most of the season, but for what he's done. And then we'll start talking about what this game in particular with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, those calls by Shane Steichen on 4th down. the one where you fake the handoff inside, putting Zaire Franklin at fullback, getting a wide open Mo Alley Cox for 30 yards, being able to throw it to Michael Pittman Jr., that Pittman play on fourth down. The Colts were 3 for 4 on fourth downs yesterday.
Whew.
Shane Steichen going super aggressive there, and it paying off in a Colts victory. But Shane Steichen definitely in his bag yesterday, Drake.
Yeah, and I think that you can. I mean, look, Gardner Minshew, you got to give him his credit at certain times. All right, I think especially after taking 3 freaking sacks from Kyle Hamilton, in that Baltimore Ravens game, and still being able to muster a win, even though it was kind of ugly. That's impressive. Gardner Minshew is the perfect backup quarterback. I think that it really helps that he understands Steichen's scheme and he operates well enough within it. But man, look, Shane Steichen has taken a team that has had constant rotations at offensive line, a team that was incredibly different with Anthony Richardson, and the ceiling was far higher, down to a very level playing field with Gardner Minshew. Then you have Jonathan Taylor, not even in week one, not even no Zach Moss either. Then he does this with Zach Moss. You also have to put into account that he's hired the right staff. And most importantly, I think his biggest hire has been Tony Sparano Jr. That dude was literally like a flame underneath the entire offensive line. He clearly has inspired this team. And I think it was Taekwon Lewis that said, you just want to play for Shane Steichen. We're bought in. He didn't say this, but this is what his statement paraphrases, that we're bought in, we're with this guy, and we feel like we can make the playoffs with him. And look, I'm going to say it. He's one of the best play callers in the NFL. I think you have to put him potentially top 5.
That's the thing. This team is bought in to what Shane Steichen is selling. You mentioned what Taekwon Lewis said today about Shane Steichen. He talked about the pillars that Steichen said in his introductory press conference, and that he stuck with those pillars throughout the season. Players have bought in to what Shane Steichen is selling to this team. They want to follow Shane Steichen. And Taekwon Lewis said, no, Shane Steichen, this is the guy that can lead us to the promised land. We all believe in Shane Steichen. We all want to play for play our hearts out for him, and we're all following him into battle each and every week. That's something that you really want to hear from your players, not just guys from the top, but all through the roster. They really believe in Shane Steichen, and I think when you have players buying into their coach's vision, buying into the things that he's teaching them, everybody is engaged, and when everybody is engaged and believes, whether you think this is true or not, I've seen it happen where when players believe that they can succeed and are being put in those positions to succeed, they go out there, they play harder, and they play better. So with these guys buying into what Shane Steichen is selling and seeing what's transpired and the results that are happening on the field, it shows me that the Colts absolutely nailed this hire with Shane Steichen, and it is the right coach to lead this Colts franchise back into the upper echelon of the AFC and the NFL. I think Shane Steichen has done a phenomenal job, and I don't think the Colts would even be sniffing the playoffs without Steichen as that head man. So really good win for the Indianapolis Colts yesterday against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's move along to talk about the injury report. And Drake, good news, no new injuries yesterday for the Indianapolis Colts against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Thought that they desperately needed that, considering it seems like the last few games there's been quite a few injuries piling up. But the guys that did miss Sunday's action included Juju Brents, who we talked about earlier, missing another game with that quad injury, as well as Drew Ogletree with that foot injury. The Drew Ogletree injury, though, allowed Will Mallory to get some snaps. Will Mallory played a pretty good game on Sunday in his limited action, Drake.
Yeah, and look, Kylan Granson, I even put out a tweet on this, or a post on X. I said, is Will Mallory slowly taking that move tight end position from Kylan Granson? Because look, Kylan Granson was healthy, but you were only talking about Will Mallory. I mean, look, I think they're almost interchangeable at this level in their career because Mallory's a rookie. But I do think, and Kylan Granson, we've talked to him. We've been around him. I mean, he literally posted a picture like he had a baby when he had his first touchdown, and he held the football and was kissing it. I mean, dude, the
Kylan
dude's
Granson's a clown.
he is a clown, but he's a great teammate. But man, I do think Will Mallory has the higher upside. I think Will Mallory's faster. Will Mallory showed some real ability in that game, man, and he's got breakaway speed. And it's like if you can just somehow get both him and Granson going, man, that tight end room looks a lot more enticing even without Jelani Woods. But yeah, I was pretty impressed with Will Mallory. We really haven't heard a lot from him until this game, actually.
And then the final injury was Ryan Kelly with that concussion. Almost made it back for the game. He was in a blue full go jersey on Thursday. I honestly thought he was going to play, but he wasn't able to pass that final step in the concussion protocol. Doesn't seem like Shane Steichen is overly worried about the long-term effects of this for Ryan Kelly. So I would assume that he is back this week against the Tennessee Titans. But shout out to Wesley French. You know, Wesley French has
Yeah.
done an admirable job in the games that Ryan Kelly has had to miss this season. Played really well at that center position and has really when in games that the interior of the offensive line could be disastrous without Ryan Kelly in there. If Wesley French greatly struggles, he's really stepped up and handled that pressure. So good on Wesley French for playing really solid minutes in relief of Kelly.
Yeah, and I think that you gotta tip your hat to both Wesley French and Blake Freeland. They've both filled in just fine. At times you don't even really talk about them outside of a couple penalties here and there with Freeland. But yeah, give credit to Wesley French, but you do hope that Ryan Kelly can get back sooner rather than later. Because I mean, look, man, he's a top 5 center, sometimes the best center in the entire league.
See, he's been playing like it so far in 2023. So for the latest Colts news and rumors, we're going to talk about Shaquille Leonard again and kind of what's going on with the linebacker as he looks for another home. There's definitely interest out there for the former 4-time All-Pro in Shaquille Leonard. It was reported that Shaq Leonard is visiting the Dallas Cowboys this week, and that the Philadelphia Eagles also have quite a bit of interest in Shaquille Leonard. So it could be as early as this week that Shaq Leonard has a new team, and it seems like the biggest interest from the NFL is coming out of the NFC East, two top teams in that conference.
It's going to be whoever really feels like they're just a Shaq Leonard addition away from a Super Bowl. I think. I think that he's more. I just feel like he's more likely to go to the Eagles. I don't think he's going to go to the Cowboys, and here's my reasoning: is that I know that Nick Sirianni has kind of shown that he can be a little bit of a weirdo at times, but at the end of the day, he's a phenomenal leader. He's a phenomenal coach. Just like Shane Steichen, his players are bought into what the hell he's doing, and he knows Shaq Leonard. That's the biggest thing. So I think that that's really where you're going to see him go. But hey, both these teams, they both have Super Bowl aspirations, and hell, they might meet in the playoffs too. So one of them might need Shaq Leonard.
And I think what's going to be big for Shaq Leonard, it's not going to be money because both teams are probably going to offer the veteran minimum since Leonard is still due $6 million from the Colts this season, no matter what. So I think it's going to be about scheme and where he thinks he has the best opportunity to play well and probably the best opportunity to play meaningful snaps, not just come off the bench as a linebacker that might play a couple snaps here, a couple snaps there. I think he really wants to contribute in a big capacity for this team. So it's going to be interesting to see which team does scoop up Shaquille Leonard. And like I've said, or like we both said last week, wherever Shaq Leonard does end up, wish him well, and hopefully he goes out and crushes it for his new team. And then one other thing to talk about that kind of broke the NFL news cycle today. Former Indianapolis Colts head coach Frank Reich was fired from the Carolina Panthers today after going 1-10 to start the season. Hasn't been a very good year and a half for Frank Reich professionally, I would say, with what happened last year with the Indianapolis Colts and the debacle there, then going to Carolina and everything that happened there, and obviously did not turn out how he thought or how they wanted it to be, and he got the really quick axe in Carolina. So before you respond to that, Drake, NFL Nerd giving us a super chat this evening. Thank you so much, buddy, for all of your support. Really appreciate you
Thank you,
tuning in
sir.
and joining all of our discussions. NFL Nerd says Reich asked the question: did Frank Reich have the worst 12 months of coaching in NFL history? I don't know. I don't know, because I don't think it's entirely his fault. I definitely think he was in two very poor situations. Nathaniel Hackett's tenure still exists. Urban Meyer's tenure still exists, and both of those were more on the coaches than it was Frank Reich's situation, in my opinion, where he had an owner that was getting too impatient in both situations, and a meddling owner that now, as more information comes out, especially at his time in Carolina, doesn't even seem like he was able to pick his quarterback when he had the first pick in the draft, which pretty damning considering how CJ Stroud has played compared to Bryce Young early in their careers.
Yeah, and look, I'm just going to go ahead and say this to anyone out there that thinks that Jim Irsay meddled last year. You don't know the name David Tepper. I think that I can't remember if it was Elite Takes at Elite Takes, but basically said that I think it was that since he bought the team in 2018, they're 30-63. Frank Reich aged 150 years in just 11 games. They were showing pictures of this guy. He looked like the president after 4 years. I mean, it sucks for Frank Reich, because I did think while he was the coach of the Colts, he had moments, but as soon as he got hired at Carolina, I was like, he's so screwed. And so I do think his coaching days as a head coach are over. I do think he could still be effective as an offensive coordinator, maybe even a QB coach. I think that would really be a great spot for him. And honestly, if he would have been the QB coach for the Panthers, maybe Bryce Young would have fared better than if Frank was the head coach.
In my opinion, I don't think he'll ever coach in the NFL again. I think he even said today in an interview with someone that covers the Panthers down in Charlotte that he feels like this chapter, the NFL chapter of his life is probably over. And if that's what he wants to do, good for him. He's been in the game for a long time. I think he's 62 years old now. So if in my opinion, if he wants to try to pursue it another opportunity in the NFL, maybe like a senior offensive advisor or an advisor to maybe go pair up with Dick Sirianni, be an advisor to the Eagles, or in Jacksonville with Doug Peterson. But honestly, it might just be better if he wants to kind of spend the rest of his days with his family, enjoying, because I know he's got some young grandkids that he'd like to be around more often. That's, if I was Frank Reich, that's probably what I would do. So again, appreciate the question, NFL Nerd. And yeah, I feel more sad and sorry for Frank Reich than anything else personally. But to wrap up the show today, Drake, one of our favorite segments on a Victory Monday, because usually we're giving this guy praise. So the Colts Player of the Game. Who is your pick for this award as Indy gets their third straight win in this stretch to possibly make the playoffs?
I had two guys, but I got to go with Jonathan freaking Taylor. This guy, multiple times. I mean, I know he's an elusive guy, he's a fast guy, but in this game, he showed power and break tackling ability. This guy was just running through people, and he showed consistent runs, consistently good runs, ran behind a good blocking from the offensive line, 6 yards a carry. If they can continue to just give Jonathan Taylor the ball, him being the feature back, Zach Moss being that complementary piece, and if the O-line can keep playing like this, they're going to be really difficult to face late in the season.
Love it. Helped get the offense back on track, looking like the Jonathan Taylor of old, which is what this Colts team needs as they head into the stretch run. A lot of people in the chat saying Michael Pittman Jr., the CFO of Horseshoe Huddle, Patrick Rice saying Michael Pittman Jr. stats. Matt is on that train as well. CMDSR, the third Pittman vote in the chat. And then we've got Wyatt Law, Wesley French for Player of the Game, made Vita Vea a non-factor, like the dark horse pick for the Player of the Game. But guys, all those really good picks. I'm going the opposite side of the ball. Samson Ebukam, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, a forced fumble, making Pro Bowl left tackle Tristan Wirfs look like a pedestrian out there. Fantastic game from Samson Ebukam, leading that charge, making game-changing plays as a pass rusher there. Exactly what the Colts need. Having his best game as a Colt, and hopefully this is just a springboard for what's to come for Samson Ebukam in a Colts uniform. So those are our players for the game for the Colts against the Buccaneers. Another victory Monday in the books. Colts, don't look now. They're starting to get hot at the right time. And maybe, just maybe, we're talking about some meaningful football into the middle part of January. So that's our show for this evening, guys. Really appreciate everybody who tuned in to talk Colts football with us on this Victory Monday. Want to give a special shout out to all of our super chats this evening. My beautiful and pregnant wife, Danielle, Truitt, Tom Brady, thanks for him for joining the show. The GOAT Logan Schmidt, and NFL Nerd. Really appreciate all of your super chats, all of your support, and everyone else that joined us tonight. Made it a lot of fun to talk about the Colts Buccaneers game. It was a great game. It really was a great game all around for the Indianapolis Colts. As Patrick Reich says, playoffs. Playoffs might be in the picture. So if you haven't done so already, please go follow us on all of our socials, like Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, follow at Colts on FN on X, and subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle YouTube channel. Hit the like button on this video on YouTube, and hit that bell so you know whenever Drake and I go live every Monday and Thursday night, or for special episodes like we had to do last week for breaking news, so you never miss an episode. And if you can't catch us live or on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to podcasts, we're on there as well. So make sure you subscribe, give us a 5-star review so we can reach other Colts fans just like you. Drake, what do you have on horseshoehuddle.com that the people can go check out that you've written?
So I have the 3 good, 3 bad in the win against the Buccaneers, so go check that out. But we always stay objective on here, right? But there's one that I'm passionate about and I truly believe should happen, and that is 3 reasons that Colts' Shane Steichen could win Coach of the Year. So go check that out and let me know if you agree. Let me know if your opinion differs. I'm eager to hear what everyone thinks.
2 great pieces by Drake on horseshoehuddle.com. For me, I wrote up after the game why Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman Jr. need to be the catalyst for this Colts offense and for this Colts team as they make that playoff push into December and into January. So make sure you check out all 3 of those pieces and all of the rest of the writings by our talented writers at horseshoehuddle.com. Go follow Drake at DWalsterDrake. You can follow me at Andrew Moore NFL. We have one more super chat of the evening from the CFO himself for even more diapers and open bars. Hey, Drake and I salute you, Patrick. Really, really appreciate it, buddy, because hey, diapers ain't cheap. We're gonna need it all here in just a few months. So really appreciate it, Patrick, as always. So for Drake and myself, have a fantastic rest of your Victory Monday, and we will see you Thursday night to get you all set for an AFC South showdown between the Colts and the Titans. Sure to be a fun one. So everyone, enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you Thursday night.